Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Becoming a Powerhouse Brand podcast. Today, I've got the lovely Cleo Matlou on, who is going to be talking to us all about multiplying and building wealth in your business and your life. So, Cleo is a financial coach, can't speak today, a financial coach and wealth legacy strategist. And I met Cleo a few months ago. It was actually at a networking event, and I just was magnetized to her beautiful energy. And I'm really excited to have her on the show today to talk all things building wealth. So, Cleo, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Jackie. I'm very excited by this.
Yay. Could you just
Mhm.
give our listeners a bit of background into what it is that you do and
Yep.
how you got into this in the first place?
Yep. So I'm a financial coach. I also do some money trauma specialist work. So my greatest vision in life is just I want women to be unreasonably wealthy. Because I really believe more conscious women has more money in their hands means that we create a better impact. We focus in terms of purpose, and we would be in a better place in the world as we are now. I truly, truly believe that. So my part to play as I am in on this world and this earth is to support women to be able to do just that. And the way that I do that is to be able to really empower women and to really get women to feel a lot more confident and more unapologetic when it comes to making more money, not just making more money, but the money they already have, what they can do with that and how they can get to multiply it. Because over the years, over the generations, women really haven't felt that as though that they are part of the conversation when it comes to building wealth. And the stats show it as well in terms of the accessibility, the inclusivity when it comes to women in the financial services industry. They're very behind in terms of how they market themselves. It's very much for men as opposed to women. So the reason why I got into this is because I'm come from Antiguan and Barbuda background. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, was a fierce, independent woman who was, unstoppable, very hyper independent, and had her own money, and really, instilled that those basic principles and practices in terms of always make sure that you have your own money. And I came from, she's one of eight, so a lot of
Wow.
female power in that space. So just being really inspired in terms of, the importance of having your own as a woman. And that generation for me, from what I could see, was where the shift was starting to happen. My grandma just being successful in building her own houses and having three, which, are very successful at in the Caribbean. And it just kind of I just lived with that. So as I was in corporate, I used to do the women leadership initiatives and lead those and always do events when it came to women. And because I come from a humble background, I really wanted to ensure that a wealthy family came from me, even though I didn't come from one. So I chased the money. And chasing the money, the only thing I really understood in terms of what potentially I could do when it comes to money is being in finance, being an accountant. So I studied to be accountant, qualified to be accountant, went to university to be accountant, and my corporate life was all around that. So yeah, chase the money and then soon realize it's not just about the financial education piece, which, actually, to be fair, being an accountant still doesn't really teach you that. There's a fundamental thing that's a massive gap when it comes to the school curriculum in terms of how you actually manage money, organize it, multiply it. There's just so much there, which I could go on and on as to why, but that's a whole podcast in itself. And then when I realized I got to like the pinnacle, what I would see at the time, because I was earning way more than anybody in my family, I was like, oh, I learned very quickly that money was the issue, what caused a lot of issues in the household. So I believed that when I got to the point of having a lot of money, that all my troubles would go away, and they just didn't. So that made me go into real spiritual, emotional, psychological path when it came to money, and realized actually um, it's not just about the money in regards to how we make it, how we grow it. It's how we feel about ourselves. And
Yeah.
that's when I started to deepen the work that I do with women and pivoted more in terms of the financial coaching, the money trauma specialist, and then embedding the wealth strategy around that as well.
I love that. Why do you think, as women, we find it so challenging? Because it is something we have to learn. I feel like, as an entrepreneur, and most of my audience are entrepreneurs as well, like it's a
Yeah.
huge learning pattern that we have to almost have to unlearn, don't we? All these
Yeah.
past patterns that have been brought into our world and how we're brought up. We're not taught about money in school. We literally are, we get to the age of 18. It's like, here you go, you can have credit cards and do all these
Yeah.
things. Like, why do we find it such a challenge? Is it just because it's not been available to us?
There's so many factors. So if we take money out of it, for an example, and really think about specifically as just being a woman, we are by defaulted expected to be givers. And givers and caretakers always put other people first before themselves. So when it has come to over the generations, I'm talking very generalized here, but women would tend to stay at home, and then from that place, the men will go out to work, they will look after the kids, so that caretaker default was always there. The premisconceptions, the status quo is already put onto a woman, a female, before they're even out the womb. There's all these preconceptions of terms of how she should act and be in the world. And one of them is just never to be someone who's audacious and bold and has her own and be successful. Let's not even think about terms of money, but having her own, having it all for herself. Because whatever a woman has to be for everybody else, as opposed to not just her own. So immediately, that level of confidence to be able to have your own is something that hasn't been really instilled in terms of women, because we are expected to be able to, give the last shirt on our back for other people. That's
Yeah.
just what we're expected to do. Um, and being dependent on men when they're going out to work, women haven't had the autonomy to be able to take themselves out of situations what might not be favorable. They've had to be accepting of our situations because it's not the done thing to be able to have your own money, to be able to then live as a single life and have your kids and live a single life. That was seen so taboo, a generation ago. Um, Not to say there wasn't any single parents, but it was really seen as taboo at the time. So there's a whole, construct around how women um, were seen, were seen, and then put money on top of that. It's like that gives you the autonomy, the choice, the options. That's the resource that's going to allow you to really to rise. And that wasn't seen as the done thing
Yeah.
in in society. That was the man's role. So it's almost deemed something as a threat to men if a woman has their own, because then it questions their need to be around, what their value is, because it's always been part of this is the role of the man. And if you end up taking that role, then they feel threatened to be redundant. So that in itself, women carry that large burden on themselves a lot. So therefore, it's like it becomes an either or game. Do
Yeah.
I rise to the masses, be successful, be high ambitious, be achieving? But then that's going to put me in a position where I'm going to probably be alone or not be alone, but squash all my dreams and allow everybody else to go whilst I'm in the background helping everybody else,
Yeah.
popping everybody else. So
Being the good girl.
that it being the good girl, yes, exactly. The big good girl syndrome is a massive one too. So if we think about it from that perspective in terms of societal expectations on women, it's very clear as to why women feel like it's an either or game, that they can't have the family, the and the drive to be ambitious and high achieving, because society has pegged us to say that we have to choose. And also from a economical and also construct in terms of regulations and laws. Women have only been able to open their own bank accounts the last 50 years, and equally in terms of being able to invest, even though that the stock market has been around since the 1700s. So women
That
have
is
only been,
wild, isn't it?
yeah,
Like,
it's crazy, isn't it? It's such a crazy stat that women have only been able to actually invest in the last 50 years. And it's only been a very elitist thing and only until that the last 20-ish years that people as working class people can actually have a low barrier to entry to actually to be able to invest as well, because we've got the apps. We don't have to go to financial advisors anymore, like and pay extortionate fees to be able to actually to invest, because the elitists will only be able to afford to pay 2.5 grand for a financial advisor to be able to deal
Yeah.
with their wealth, with their wealth management. So there's so many factors in terms of why women haven't felt that they've not been able to do these sort of things, because quite frankly, society hasn't give them the space and the opportunity to be able to do that. And that's why this right now, the generation where there's so much more female breadwinners coming up, there's so many high achieving women where they feel that there's this major conflict of, yes, I'm making the money, and there's this level of self-sabotage in terms of what happens with it when they've got it,
Yeah.
or allowing themselves to be charging the prices that they want to be charging, and also being able to hold the money that they know that is going to create some form of security with them, but they just seem like they just find the money just leaking out of their hands. So there's such a lot of conditioning that women are imposed under, that quite frankly makes it quite challenging for women to be able to feel that they can own their wealthy woman status.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting as well. You're talking about wealth building because being an entrepreneur, like I've been in my own business since 2016, and I've noticed a huge shift in that time, in that it's very much gone from the 5 figure income and 5 figure months, 6 figure months, 6 figure income, like all of these different levels of like making money, but never really about building wealth and the investing long term. So, what would be like, I feel like this is quite new in terms of what I've personally been seeing.
Yeah.
I'm definitely seeing more women investing in things like property and
Yeah.
actually helping themselves to multiply
Yeah.
like what they've already got. And like you say about
Yeah.
the money just draining through their fingers,
Mm.
it's them
Yeah.
making that next step, isn't it, to build
Yeah.
build their legacy.
Yeah, I mean, to be quite, let's be really honest and frank about this. I'm assuming as well the people that you're seeing, it comes with age as well. When you get to like the 40ish to a 40ish age, it's like, oh, I swore then, I'm not too sure I can. Oh damn
You can.
it. I was like, damn it, like I've got to 40s now. I have little in my pensions, I have little in my savings. I may own the house that I live in. I love what I do, but can I see myself doing this for the next 20 years?
Yeah.
And it's now thinking, more longer term in terms of where the trajectory is. Like, okay, I've kind of got to the place where I really want to be, or on the way to get to the place I want to be within my business. What is this going to look like for me, in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Is this something that I want to be able to be constantly sustaining? Am I going to be forever pivoting on what I'm doing in my business? Is this something that's going to be around forever with the new, AI and things like that? So I think women are starting to really think now, and also when they've got dependents, whether it is their children, their elderly parents, the priorities start to really, well, it's not to say that a lot of women go into business because their priorities of not most of the time wanting to have more money and have more flexibility. And that flexibility is what is the freedom to be able to do the certain things that they want to do with certain people who are important to them. Um, there's two prongs. Business, being in business, you come to realize at some parts that doesn't actually give you that freedom that you thought you was going to
Yeah.
give you. and and secondly, the ones that have been able to master that, it's the can I be doing this for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So I think now that's why women tech, particularly around that age, the 40 age. Definitely a lot of my clients who are coming to me now are in the 50 region, are starting to think I need to have another option,
Yeah.
something I know I can do, that I can have, that doesn't require to exchange my time for money. I love what I'm doing, and I also know I need to have something else that is going to create that security, that is going to create that safety, that's going to create something that I know that when time comes, when I get older and I don't know how life is going to look like, that I don't have to be so reliant and to be forward focused or forward facing in a business, which I'm
Yeah.
currently having to do now, which something else actually can take some of the pressure off me having to always having to exchange my time for money. So I think that's where the shift in terms of women, okay, now I can start to see the consistent income. What am I doing with it? What have I got to show for being a business owner, earning this type of money? And it's also that, yes, investing in yourself and self-development, absolutely cannot, that's something that's really, really important and really, really valuable. And that return investment only really just makes you make more money. But what are you doing with the money that you are making that
Yeah.
is you've got something to show for? And I think it's that part that's why women are starting to really think about wealth building because, you know, retirement, you know, is also something and also creating your legacy. What am I creating for my children? What am I leaving behind? What am I instilling in them and the examples that I'm giving to them in terms of how I go about and move about when it comes to money as well. So I think it's the era that we're all in
Yeah.
and what it all means for us now that we are successful business owners. What do we want to be showing for it?
Yeah. In terms of like bringing in sort of spirituality and embodiment into practice, what do you recommend? Like, do you notice any patterns? Because I know myself included, and lots of conversations I've been having recently, it's you hit the big income month, the one that you've been focusing on for so long, and then it's almost like the complete downfall on the other side of it because you actually weren't ready and your nervous
Yes,
system wasn't regulated to be able to hold
yes.
it. Like, what I'd love to know your feedback on that.
Oh my God, yeah. So a lot of my clients, when I've really focused, and that's why I'm slightly pivoting the business, where focusing on what the money that you already have, what we do with it, and then multiply it, and then help nervous system regulation of people who are in that flux. So, because that's the part where people just don't realize comes until they experience it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really don't understand it because it's like, oh, and it's back to the thing that I said, oh, I've made this money now, all my problems are going to go away.
Yeah.
And it's like, new level, new devil.
Yeah.
Hello. Um, so for me, I see it as training ground when you do experience those months and and to expect not the consistency, having the consistency yet, because there is this in between that you're in. You're not quite the identity of somebody who is earning that regular income, and you have outgrown the identity that you was before. So you're kind of the in between. So it's giving yourself grace that if you do reach that target, that you will then won't see it again for a couple of
Yeah.
months, maybe even several months, because a lot of the patterns that you have already or that you already have present may have contributed for you to get to that number and it isn't quite in alignment to the person that you want to be creating to making that money consistently. What I mean by that is that in a lot of people's minds, to make more money means I have to work harder. And you may have worked harder to get that money and to hit that target, but it's like this still doesn't feel quite great in
Yeah.
alignment. This is not the way that I want to be doing this consistently. So that's where the dip tends to happen. And equally, if you end up actually doing it in a way that felt of ease, that felt fun, that felt joyful, because you're not used to that identity of yourself, you start to think to yourself, am I worthy to be able to do this with ease and not have to work so hard as I've done before? I mean, how hard I had to work for the first 10K that I hit before, and now I'm flancing around, not doing much, and I just hit 30K with complete ease. There's contraction that can happen with that as well because
Yeah.
the stories that you've had growing up means that in order for you to be creating those type of income targets, you've got to be saying how stressed you are, how hard it was, because especially as being British, we don't really welcome people who are wealthy and who aren't stressed and who aren't overly busy.
Yeah.
Like, there's some taboo around making money easily, and
Yeah,
and that
totally.
makes people quite prickly, and that may then mean that some of the relationships that you have that are around you may shift a little bit, and that feels scary as well because these people may be important to you. So it's not just about you, but it's also how you navigate relationships around you in this new identity that you are in. And that can be really scary and challenging. So you might not be quite ready to really step into that identity because you realize there's certain parts in your life that you just need to be able to alter with this new identity, which you didn't quite notice or recognize when you had that vision for yourself. So I say this to say it's grace and compassion, and it's having awareness and reflection. The same way that if you had a launch um or if or you did like an event to be able to inject more revenue into your business, that you would do some form of after action review to see what went well, what didn't work well. You need to also do that same audit and same reflection back on your energy,
Yeah,
on what took you there, and the things that you thought were great and what worked and what was different and new, and that's what you want to continuously do. And the parts that you may need to be thinking like, this is going to be the thing that's probably going to hold me back,
yeah,
make me go back into the same old patterns, because we are creatures of habit. We are going to go to what we already know. And that's what brings us back to the same income income brackets that we were before when we've had high ones as well.
yeah.
So yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think it's really interesting you talking about that. So my high cash month that I made earlier this year was just so in flow, like having fun, like not really putting loads of effort into it. So it almost felt like, oh my God, this is too scary. That almost became too easy.
Yeah.
That I then self-sabotaged. And I
Yeah.
think I did a review yesterday, and my best months throughout the entire year have been the months where I've been having more fun and freedom and
Mm.
flexibility than the ones where I was like, right, I'm going to get really on it this month and be really fully
Yeah.
focused. Obviously, it'll be different for everybody, won't it?
Yeah.
Like some people will find that the months where they worked their absolute bum off and
Yeah.
hustled and were up till 2 o'clock in the morning, that
Yeah.
actually that works for them. But yeah,
Exactly. And it's owning your
yeah,
process and being unapologetic about it, because by you being, and I thank you so much for sharing that, because like by saying that, some listeners might be a bit triggered by that. And some listeners can also feel they can relate to that as
yeah,
well. But it's all welcome because you are your own, you're unique, there's only one you. And the way that you go about things is going to be different to the next person. That's why finances, money, and wealth is so personal, because one person's blueprint isn't going to be looking the same,
yeah,
because the way your stories, your blind spots, the patterns, the way that you brought up is good. You look at money completely different to one person to the next, and what's important to you may not be important to the other person as well. So it's owning your own process and being unapologetic with it.
love it. To wrap up, what I would love to know what you would say to somebody that's maybe listened to this episode that is
Yeah.
thinking, oh my God, I didn't even realize I was doing it, but I am chasing the money. I've literally been
Yeah.
chasing the money. What would you say to that person that's maybe having that bit of a wake up call that actually I don't want to be chasing anymore? I want to attract, and I also want to know how I can start multiplying what I already have and building that wealth. What would be their very first step to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this question. So I want to say it very high level, and I'm just going a little bit detail, just a little bit detail. Is that you become a money making machine. So you've got the mindset of a money maker, which is great, and that is the momentum that you need in your business. Now the invitation is to be more taking more wealth decisions. So more wealth legacy decisions in your business. And they're the things that are the longevity, that's the direction. Now, the consistency that you've got is what you need, but it's now thinking about a longer term, and the decisions that you're making on a daily basis is thinking of the wealth moves as opposed to the money maker moves. So that mindset shift alone is really, really powerful. And the way that you know when you're making wealth decisions is to understand what your wealth legacy looks like, you need to start having that plan of what that means to you and making every pound have a purpose and be able to understand where you are now, where you desire to be, what is the gap, and then to be able to work towards, filling those gaps based on, do I need to be switching from saving to investing? Do I need to look at being open a pension pot? Do I need to think about buying a property or buying properties? What I currently have, how do I leverage that so then I don't really have to do much other than just tweak this here and there that can multiply on itself that without me having to do any more work. Doesn't mean I have to just put in an extra couple of hundred into this place here in order for me to then feel that, oh, actually my money's working on itself and there's
Yeah.
nothing more I have to do. So it's starting now, and it's coming back to what you said at the beginning, where women start to think about more wealth building. It's starting to build structure and have a strategy of what that plan looks like. That does not mean that the identity shift and the patterns and the beliefs won't show up. Absolutely, they have to come hand in hand. But just to have an idea of know what's possible for you and how you can make moves to get to that point, and then work with yourself in terms of being able to maneuver and think differently will also mean the identity shift have to come with it and work with those beliefs, you know, those blind spots being removed, the mind body regulation will happen too. So over the time that every time you shift from the money making to more with the wealth legacy decisions, it will start to come autopilot because again, that's an identity shift in itself.
Yeah. I love that. That is a perfect way to end this episode. Cleo, you've got a wealth activation audio, haven't you?
I do indeed.
Amazing. What can our listeners get from that?
So the wealth activation, I understand that when you are starting to be a money maker, to a wealth legacy decision maker, that to look at your numbers can be like, oh my God, I'm gonna like this is it's so exposing. It feels like being financially naked and feeling very exposing because it's like, oh, I've never looked at my numbers in this way, and actually it reveals a lot about you and your
Yeah.
habits and how you feel, and you connect to the emotions, how you felt when you were spending or making some certain decisions. So it does bring up a lot. So the wealth activation audio is a mindfulness practice to use that before you are going to start organizing your money, you're going to focus on really seeing where you are, where you desire to be, is to just listen to that, to just neutralize the energy, regulate your nervous system, and then just feel way more empowered to actually start the journey. So that's what we'll support you with.
Amazing. Well, make sure that you go and click the link in the show notes below so you can get your wealth activation audio. Cleo, where can we find you online?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram, it's Cleo underscore Matlou, and I'm also on LinkedIn, it's Cleo Matlou as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Hope you've enjoyed this episode, everybody. And if you have, please do go and follow Cleo, reach out to Cleo and myself. Let us know what you thought of the episode. And please do leave a review. And I will see you in the next episode. Thanks, guys.